Thank you everyone for joining us for our latest how-to webinar. As you can see on screen there, we're joined by Brenda today to talk all about the business model canvas and how to use it as a planning tool. For anyone who's ever used it before, it's a really fantastic tool, and obviously I'm not going to steal Brenda's thunder on this, but a real fantastic way to kind of summarize your ideas for your business and your strategy and how you're going to move forward. Obviously there's a lot of details that go around that, but it's a really great both a starting point but also a dynamic tool to use. So as we're going through, if anyone's got any questions, there is a Q&A box at the bottom. Feel free to put the questions in there. We've got the comments as well. Yeah, so more than happy to take them as we go along. And like I said, I won't steal your thunder, Brenda. I'll hand it over to you to kind of introduce what you're going to do, and any questions that come in, I'll field them and hand them over to you, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, you've already stolen my thunder a little bit. And anybody that knows me has probably heard me go on about this tool a lot, because it's absolutely my favourite one to use. And the reason I like it is because it's so adaptable. You can use it in so many different ways. And I'm going to go through quite a few of those ways later on this morning in this webinar. So just to start off with then, we're going to cover three things. So by the end of this webinar, you should know what the business model canvas is, what it looks like. You should be able to model your own business and then have confidence in being able to use this tool in various different ways, depending on how you want to go away and use it after the webinar. So I'm hoping that's the three outcomes you're going to get from it today. So we'll explore the canvas itself to begin with. So this is the business model canvas. This is my version of the business model canvas. The original version was created by a company called Strategizer. And if you've seen the original model, it's the other way around. So they work with the activities and resources on the left-hand side of the model and the customers on the right-hand side of the model. Now, my logic is to work left to right, and I think the customers should be central to any business and any story you're telling about your business. So I've switched it around. But in essence, it's the same nine building blocks from the original business model canvas. And I say I've just switched them around. So if we think about this in relation to strategy, there's a great book that I'm going to hold up called Playing to Win. And it's really about how strategy works. Strategy is about having a plan that makes you win in whatever field you're in. And it goes through a couple of different things you should ask yourself. So what is your winning aspiration? Why are you in business? What's your purpose? What's that sort of guiding North Star? Where are you playing? So are you playing in your local market? Are you UK wide? Are you global? What product categories are you playing in? And what customer segments are you playing in? How are you going to win? How are you going to win against your competition? What's different about you? What's your unique value proposition? And once you've figured all that out, what actual activities do you need to do to make that happen? And what measures and processes and structures do you need to have in place? So in effect, what does your operating model need to look like? That's all a bit wordy, so I've kind of simplified it right down. So in essence, I think you can look at basically the why, where, who, how, what, when questions. And we can lay them onto the business model canvas. So in essence, all the business model canvas is doing is taking those strategic questions and simplifying them right down. So where are your customers and who are your customers? Why are you in business? And how do you differentiate yourself against the competition? How do you interact with your customers? What's that relationship like? And in terms of channels, how are you reaching your customers? Where are they? And when are you using particular channels? Are you using a route to market for customer acquisition, but then are you servicing them through different channels? In the background, we've got what you actually need to do to make your business function, what resources you need, and who do you need to work with outside your business to make your business work. Another way to think about it is to think of it as the sort of left and right hand side of your business. So for me, the left hand side is in essence your shop window. This is the bit that the customers are seeing. This is the bit that is visible to your customers, to your competition. And this is what's driving your revenue. Whatever your service or your product is you're selling, that's driving your revenue. The right-hand side of the model is in effect your back office. So this is the bit that your customers don't see, and it's all the activity that's taking place behind the scenes to make sure you can serve your customers. And depending on the activity levels, that's driving your cost base. So to have a viable business model, the left-hand side and the revenue drivers need to outweigh what you're doing in the background and the cost drivers. So I'm going to pause there for a second because that was a very, very quick what the business model canvas is. And what we're going to do now is go through each of those blocks in more detail. And I'm going to give you examples of what you could put in each box. So I don't know if you just want to have a think about it for your business or make some notes as we go along, but just have a think when I'm saying this. Oh yeah, okay, I can see that. So my business would be this. So we'll go through each of these blocks in one by one now. So customers, is your business a B2B business or is it B2C? So are you selling something to other businesses or are you selling direct to the end consumer? It might be some business models have a bit an element of both. Are you targeting mass market with your products? Could anybody buy your product or service? Or do you segment your market base? Do you have different products and propositions for different types of customers? Or are you playing in a niche market? Have you really, really narrowed down the field and you know exactly who your client is and you're winning in that niche area? Then you have to think about the locality. Are your customers local to you? So are they Leeds or West Yorkshire based? Can you go nationwide? Or in fact, is your product or service a global brand? In terms of the value proposition, a good way to think about this is the job to be done. What is it that your customer needs to do that your product or service is a solution to them to do that? I love this. This is such a great thing. It just explains it really. So people don't want a 1/4 inch drill. They want a 1/4 inch hole. Yeah. So they're not buying a drill. They're buying something that gives them a hole. So I was going to sort of say, have a think about what your hole is. This kind of sounds a little bit rude. I'm hoping it gets the message over. It's not the product itself, it's what your product does for the customer that's important to think about.
I think this is great, Brenda. I know it's something they do a lot in kind of sales related training, where they talk about this quote's used quite a lot on that. And I think it's a fantastic one because it's essentially the outcome that people get
Absolutely.
from dealing with you.
Yeah.
Really, none of us we're not bothered about products or services. We want results or outcomes or what we get from it.
Yeah.
And that's, it's very much what that quote's encompassing, isn't it?
Years ago, we used to talk about features, advantages and benefits. It still started with the features, when in fact it should be the other way around. And it should start with the benefits, really. There's another example as well that's talked about quite a lot, is to do with the milkshake. And if you think about, say, I don't know, a McDonald's milkshake, and what it's meeting in those customers, and therefore what its competition is. And they talked about in the morning, a lot of businessmen or businesswomen were buying milkshakes on the way to work. So at the time, I was like, I just need something quick and fast to satisfy my hunger on the way to work. And the competition at that stage might be a banana or a bagel or some other sort of breakfasty item. In the afternoon after school, the parents may be taking their child to McDonald's. At that stage, it becomes a treat. So that the milkshake in itself is a treat for the child. In which case, the competition might be, I don't know, going to the toy shop or going to the park. So depending on the need, one product satisfying different things. So the job to be done is, as I've said, it's what is the solution. But then you've got to think about, why is your solution different to your competition's? One way to think about it is, are you competing on price? So are you trying to be the cheapest? Are you competing on your product quality and the features of your product? Or are you competing in the customer experience, customer service area? The chances are you'll want to be good at all three of these areas, but you have to almost pick which one is your USP and is your thing. So if we looked at the drill bits, is yours the cheapest drill bit, or does your drill bit made of a particular metal that makes it more durable than anybody else, or is it something to do with how you package up your drill bit and send it to your customer on next day delivery and free returns or whatever? So one drill could be pitched in any of those three areas. So think about what your competitive advantage is, what space you're playing in there. If we move on to box number 3 now, which is a customer relationship. So this is about how you are and how you interact with your customers. Is it a very, very close one-on-one and deep relationship that you're building with your customers? Or is it purely transactional? You're there to sell them a product or a service and they're buying it, but it doesn't really the relationship doesn't go beyond that actual transaction. It could be it's all done through AI, and in actual fact, you have no direct relationship with your customer and it's all done through AI or robotics or whatever. For each of these boxes, there'll be others as well. I've just kind of put a few in each box just to get you thinking. In terms of channels, the routes to market are usually either direct or indirect. So directly, do you have some sort of shop or outlet? Are you dealing through the internet? Or perhaps you actually have a physical sales force that are going out and selling your product for you. Indirect, you might sell your products or services into a wholesaler or a warehouse. You might get business through referrals or word of mouth. Or it might be you've set up some sort of licensing scheme or some sort of franchise scheme, or maybe some sort of network marketing scheme where you're making money out of other people selling your product or service. So everything we've talked about on that left-hand side is driving your revenue. So it could be you're making margin, so you're buying something and you're selling it on at a higher price. It could be you've got fee income coming in. So potentially if you've got referrer fees or franchising fees, so your model might be fee-based rather than margin-based. Or I say it could be you're getting your money from other people selling your products, that sort of network marketing. On the right-hand side then, so box 6, what do you actually have to do to make all this happen for your customer? Do you actually manufacture something? Are you actually physically making something? Do you have logistics involved? Have you got to get something from A to B? Do you have a sales force? Do you have customer service teams? Is there a lot of admin and paperwork that you need to do? Maybe you need to do training and development of your staff. So, and there'll be loads of other things to go in there as well. So resources, what do you need? Do you need some sort of office space or factory space? Do you need machinery, equipment? Do you need IT and phones? Do you need people, particularly thinking about your people, and who of those people are really key to making your business happen? If it wasn't for them, then this business wouldn't be able to run. And as you said, probably a lot of us deal with some sort of external partners as well, especially because we're like small businesses, we can't really do it all ourselves. So you might outsource your creative stuff, you might outsource your marketing or your design or your social media. You'll probably use accountants and lawyers. You might need workmen to go in, and if you've got shops or franchises and they need fitted out in a certain way. And you might need IT support, or if you're running a CRM system. So again, almost depending on how much of this you're doing internally yourself and how much you're outsourcing will be driving your cost base. So have a think about what the main cost drivers of your business are. Is it property costs, rentals, leases? Is it IT costs or any licensing costs and software costs? Marketing, how much are you putting aside for marketing spend? Salaries, how much are you spending on your people and salaries and training? There'll always be like admin type costs as well. So by going through each of these boxes and just at a really high level, plotting out what it is that makes your business a business, I think is really important to do, because if you don't have this base understanding about how your business works, then there's no point doing any planning, because you kind of need to understand what your as is stage is. And if you don't know this and you haven't mapped this out, then you're almost moving on, but not from that steady baseline. So I know I've gone through that quite quickly, but hopefully you could go away, and if I gave you that template, you'd be able to fill it in for your own business now. Is there any questions at that stage, Michael, or are we?
No question at the moment, Brenda. I was going to ask about how, so obviously you can use that today and use it as a tool. How often would you kind of revisit that and look at that?
I would say annually, once a year, especially just re-examining your as-is position once a year. I'm going to go on in a minute to talk about how we use it to look to the future. But I think as an exercise, do it once a year, definitely.
And would you? I know something I've heard before about this is you have it visual, so you look at it all the time as a reminder. You know, print it out, put it on your wall, put it on the fridge, whatever works for you. Have it as your screensaver on your desktop, whatever. Having that visible as a reminder of the basics at all times is crucial.
Definitely have it visual, and in actual fact, just seeing your own business model come alive on a wall. So I did this with a client last week, and we had a big whiteboard and we had post-it notes. So for every box we were sticking up post-it notes. And what's good as well is if you have, say, 2 different customer segments, you can use different colour post-it notes and you can see really clearly where the differences are. And he was just sitting there looking at it, and I could just tell he was like, oh my God, like he just hadn't thought of his business in that way before. So it really does just bring it alive, especially say if you use different colours.
Yeah, so we've had Karen's asked a question actually, Brenda.
Okay.
She just asked, it's a great model, is a business canvas. How does this work if you have several products or services?
Okay, so depending on how busy it's going to get, as I said, use a different colour. So when you're working through it, use different colour pens or post-it notes for your different products and services, or do a different business model if it's going to get too busy for the different products and services. But I would try and do it on one and just use different colours, because you might find a lot of the back office stuff is the same. It's at the front end where you've maybe got different propositions and different channels and routes to market where the differences will be.
Yeah, would you potentially maybe think about, how different, so if you've got services that are quite similar in a lot of ways, but just slightly different, then they can work on one. But if you've got two very distinct propositions, then actually maybe 2 will work if it's a totally different customer target market, totally different way it's delivered. So if you've got a shop and an online platform and they're just going to different people as an example.
Yeah, so for your business, Michael, I would do a different one for Northern Affinity and Northern HQ, because
yeah, absolutely,
fundamentally different business models. But if you're selling the same product, A through a shop and B through the internet, I think I would do that on one model and just highlight where the differences are.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we'll move on then. Now we've kind of seen it, we'll move on to how we can use it as a planning tool. I'm losing my voice here, apologies. Right. Okay, to use it as a planning tool. Okay, so I first got introduced to this when I worked for a building society. And basically, I've put up here the core business model of a building society. And I'm sure you'll all kind of get this. So a building society's core business model is to take in savings for which we will pay the customer some interest, and then we lend that money out to other customers who want to buy a home in terms of mortgages, and for that we receive interest in from them. And the difference between the interest that we make on mortgages and you pay out on savings is what's called the margin. That margin then covers the running costs of building society, and because it's a mutual and it's a non-profit, any profit that's then left over is invested back into the business. Now that's all well and good, but fundamentally every building society is running that same business model. So there's nothing unique or different in there. Then all that happens is to win business, you have to pay the best rates or have the lowest mortgage rates. And you just end up in a losing cycle where everybody's just trying to win on price and margins get squashed. And you just everybody ends up in the same boat. So you have to supplement that core business model with other income streams to make it viable. So if I think about the building society I worked for, we had sort of 4 other different income streams. There was a share plans business, which was a B2B model. So that's where, like, if you work for a company and you pay monthly and at the end of it you get some shares that you can buy. But predominantly the customers were the companies. So that was bringing in a B2B element. There was a treasury function. If we couldn't get savings from retail people, we had to get that money from the wholesale markets. There was third-party products like insurances and life insurance and home insurance, where we didn't sell the products, but we got fee income and commission for selling other people's products. And then we had a commercial lending arm as well. We don't just give mortgages to people wanting to buy homes, we gave mortgages to business people looking to buy business property. So there was other income streams that were helping this core part of the building society to exist. And almost that extra income was kind of going back into the members to help give them better rates. So I just wanted to show you that, so to make you see that different elements of the business model. So you wouldn't do all this on one canvas. So what happened was we had a new chief exec coming in, and we thought, well, what is a great way is to, why don't we use these business models to talk the chief executive through each of the different parts of his building society and how each bit is making money or not making money and what its overall value is to the group. So for each of these different blocks, we set out what the current business model was, and then we did a 5-year view of what the target business model looked like for each one of these blocks. So the share plans people did one, the commercial people did one, the insurance people did one. And straight away, the chief exec could get a really visual idea of, I get that, I see what you do, I see what you do for the bigger group. And you could look at almost the makeup then of the income, of the costs, of the number of employees, whatever metric you choose, you could split it into these different parts of the business model. Then what we did is we used the business models to start off the change program. So again, we had, this is where we are now as a business. this is where we want to get to as a business in 5 years. Okay, so all the actions in that had to be part of a change program. They had to be costed out, and there had to be priorities made because you can't do everything, and budget set aside, and then sort of measures and metrics put in place. So fundamentally, the business model was the first part of the change cycle in the building society. Hence why I'd suggest you do them every year, because things change every year. The external world changes around us, our competition changes constantly. So from the book, the title written down, this is the book, the original book. It talks about different ways you can use the business model. So one of the ways we've said is establish your as is and the to be state for your business. It basically is really good at illustrating how your business makes financial sense, because if the left-hand revenue is not outweighing the right-hand costs, you don't have a viable business. Gives you a bit of a reality check as well. Does this actually make sense? Shows the big picture in a visual way, like we've said. And because it's visual and you can talk to it, it's a really great way to engage your stakeholders and be able to tell your story. If you basically talk around the 9 building blocks, that's you telling the story of your business. And so it's a great way to engage teams. And it's quite good as well in terms of the back office activities. It helps people see that their role is actually really, really important to making the business work. And it also establishes that sort of common language and framework as well across a business, and hopefully align all members of the leadership team. So if everybody can see that whole picture, hopefully then any sort of other planning that's done at a more functional level is all to move the business from that as is to that to do state. And then you can then go on and translate it into an operating model. So that's getting a bit more detailed as well. So all the processes and systems that need to be in place at a lower level, what your structure needs to look like, what staff do you need. So I'm now going to take you through some different examples, and I've based it on a homemade lemonade stand. I thought we'll keep something really, really simple that we can all understand, just to take you through the different ways we can use it as a planning tool. So, number one, understanding your current business model. So I say I've kind of made this up based on having a lemonade stand. So I've decided my lemonade stand is down in my local canal, and my customers are the people who are walking or cycling along the canal. So they're probably local to the area where I live, or they might just be visiting for the day. The value proposition is my customers need to quench their thirst with a refreshing organic lemonade. And it's also a bit of a treat at the end of the activity. You've got to the end of the walk and you can look forward to that lovely fresh lemonade. My proposition is also that it's eco-friendly, because you bring your own cup or whatever and we fill the lemonade up. I've decided I'm not going on price, because my lemonade is probably cost more than you'd go and buy one out the shop for. So it's really to do with the qualities and the provenance of the lemons themselves. So it's really in the product features. The relationship's pretty transactional. I just want people to buy lemonade, a bit friendly and a bit chatty. How I reach my customers is through my stall, hopefully word of mouth, hopefully get a bit of social media, and I've put some adverts up along the canal path. And basically I make my money from the margin I make from the sales. In the background, what I need to do is buy the ingredients. I need to make the lemonade, I need to transport it to the canal, do some marketing, and obviously there's always admin in any business. All I really need is a big juicer, a van to transport it, and 2 members of staff. And externally, I need to work with people to supply me the lemons and my accountant. So my main costs are my ingredients, my transport, some salaries, and I need to pay for a pitch license to be able to sell my lemonade. So a really simple little business model. I want to grow my business. Okay, sorry, I'll just take a step back. But for any business, there's risks and limitations. Yeah, and these can come externally or internally. So whenever you're doing any planning, you should always think about risks and limitations to your business model. So these could be your traditional pest factors. So think about what's happening politically, economically, social, or technological. It could impact on your business. Now, the impacts could be in a positive way and provide opportunities, or it could be in a negative way and it's a threat. And therefore, your plans need to you need to think about, do you have to have contingency plans in place to stave off those threats, or plans in place to really maximise on those opportunities. So in the case of lemons, I don't know, COVID has meant everybody's out walking along the canals, getting fresh air more often. So that's a good thing. There's more people there to buy my lemonade. You also have to think about other external things, like, is there anything regulatory that can stop me selling my lemonade? It might be there's some health and safety things that I need to make sure that I'm meeting. The supply chain, if I can't get my lemons, so let's imagine there's a drought in Spain and I can't source my lemons. So I have to have a think about what else could happen externally that can stop me running my business. Internally, it could be financially, have you got the right cash flow in place to keep being able to buy the lemons to make the lemonade? What risks are there? What if I sell lemonade to somebody and they have an allergic reaction? I need to think about that. And what systems and capabilities? Do I have all the right things in place? Do I have the right people in place? Have I got a nice culture? If I'm wanting my relationship to be chatty and friendly, of the people I'm employing, are they chatty and friendly? And what other stakeholders do I need to think about? So in this scenario, there probably really isn't any stakeholders, governance and committees and who makes decisions and stuff like that. In any planning, you also have to understand your competition. So who is my competition down at the canal where I'm selling my lemonade? Well, there's also somebody who sells hot coffee. There's somebody who sells buns and cakes. And there's another competitor who sells juice and they have a little seating area. So I might want to stop and think, right, okay, is there anything that these competitors are doing that I think I need to be doing? Well, I don't want to sell hot drinks because that's got a whole host of other issues, having to transport hot water. Selling cakes, well, maybe that's something I could do. Maybe I could go into partnership with the other stall and we could sell each other's products. And a sitting area, yeah, maybe that would be nice, just to have a few bit of a canopy and some table and chairs. So by looking at my competition and understanding what they're doing and what they're doing differently to me, I can think, is that something I want to do? Or am I quite happy that I don't do that and that's their thing and that's fine? And have a think about where your competition are on the price and product and customer experience chart as well.
Would you maybe advise them, Brenda, putting together a business model canvas for your competition? Would that be something that would be useful?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, when I worked at the Building Society, we did it for every other building society and bank. You have to make loads of assumptions.
Of course.
I think you could probably got a good enough idea to make those assumptions. And again, it's just makes you, especially if you highlight the differences to you in a different colour, again, it might jump out what they're doing differently. And again, that can make you think, is that something I want to do or not? I'm quite happy that's their competitive advantage and that's fine. But yeah, absolutely do it for your competition. See what you're all doing the same, but really look at where the differences are.
Yeah, and I guess that highlights where, like I said, what you do well and your uniqueness.
Exactly. Or you might see some gaps. You might suddenly realize there's a particular gap in the market that none of you are meeting. That might jump out at you as well. So when we come to map out the target business models, which is really where we're going to start driving our planning, So I've just come up with two little scenarios here for our little lemon stall. So I've decided, because we're eco-friendly and people bring their own cup, sometimes they haven't got a cup with them, therefore they can't buy my lemonade. So we're going to start producing and selling our own cups as well. And if you have one of our cups, you then get a 10% discount on the cost of the lemonade. So I'm trying to move that relationship more away from transactional to one of customer loyalty. And we could hopefully sort of use the cups in some sort of social media campaign as well, and get some influencers out there who are, you know, taking pictures of the cup in different scenarios. So the extra activity I need to do then is actually source these sustainable cups. I'm going to take on an extra member of staff because there's an extra big activity now to do. And I'd like that member of staff really as well to focus on the social media side of my business for me. I need to find a supplier of cups. Because I'm getting some loyalty and I want to keep track of my customers, I might start a CRM system. And I'll need some e-com development so people can buy the cups online. So my costs have immediately gone up because I've now got the cost of cups, and I've got some increased salaries and maybe some website costs as well. But hopefully that would drive additional margin. So if those extra costs were not being made, if the extra margin was not covering those extra costs, it's not a viable business proposition. So what I'd probably want to do is work out how much more lemonade and how many cups I'd need to sell to cover those extra costs. Or I could still sell my lemonade, but why don't I go away from canals and go to festivals? Why don't I get myself a van and take my lemonade and take it to festivals? So in effect, I've got two customers there. I've got the festival organisers who I'll need to build relationships with, and I've got the actual end festival goer then. So there's a bit of B2B there and a bit of B2C in this business model. I'd probably have to do a bit of research into the different festivals and their opportunities and the costs. And because we're now going to be making lemonade on a much bigger scale, I think I need to get myself an actual industrial kitchen. I can't do this out of my own kitchen anymore. So I need a big industrial kitchen and big industrial juicers. So more equipment. I'll need a payment machine to take payment of the festival goers. I'll need an extra member of staff. And I think it's about time I got myself covered with some proper insurance. I don't know if Jeff's on call or not, but he'd like that bit. So huge amount more costs there, you can see straight away. But my target market is phenomenal. The amount of people at festivals compared to the amount of people that walk up a canal. So what you would then do is you'd lay out your options and you'd think about, okay, what are the differences from where I am now to what these options are? And therefore, what do I need to do to move my business from A to B? And a good tool to use here is something called a strategic options grid. So I've done a really, really simple one here for now. But set out your different options. So the cups, the festivals, or I might want to franchise my business. And think about it in terms of, is it a strategic fit? Does it fit with the purpose of my business? Or am I starting to kind of move away really from that core why? Is it actually doable? Can I actually do this? Do I have the right processes and systems to be able to do this? Do I have the people to make this happen? What are the risks of me doing this? And actually, which one financially makes more sense? Where am I going to get the biggest bang for my bucks? Where's that return on investment? So you could have as many categories in here as you want and just give them rank them. So 3 being the best to 1 being the lowest. Then if you add it up, it should become clear which option is the best option to follow. I would kind of do this with a team of people and get a really good discussion around them all. The final way you can kind of use the business model as a planning tool is to really get creative with it. I think when the guy first wrote the book, it was all about using the tool as a creative space. And I kind of sort of say, turn it on its head. Think about every box from a completely different angle. just to see what else you could do with your business. So in this one, so I've just got these annoying pop-ups. Because my business is predominantly B2C, I want to bring in a B2B element. So I'm making lemonade, but once I've made my lemonade, I've got all the leftover bits of lemon just sitting in boxes, which is predominantly waste. Because part of my value proposition is about sustainability, I don't really want waste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell those lemon skins to beauty product manufacturers who can use the lemons and turn them into a nice face wash. So a completely different business model for me. It's a transactional business partnership now I'm getting into. I might need to attend trade fairs to talk to beauty manufacturers. And my revenue driver here is a sale of the used lemons. So I'm going to have to do some business development, build relationships. There's packaging, transportation, invoicing. Yeah, probably need some insurance, some legal, suppliers. And the cost drivers are really almost the lemons I've already paid for. I've got a bit of packaging to get them to the beauty product manufacturers and a bit of transport. But in actual fact, there's not a huge amount more cost there. I'm suddenly making all this extra income from all these lemons that I was just chucking away. So by almost trying to think about your business from the opposite angle, you can get quite creative, and it might just spark some new ideas. So hopefully, having gone through that, you now see how you can use it in different ways. So think about your as is and your target states. Think about all the external and internal risks and limitations and what you're going to do to plan to maximize those opportunities or stave off those threats. Use it to analyze your competition and see if there's any gaps in the market. And use it to analyze what is your best route in terms of those strategic options map. And use it to get creative and have fun and think about new things you can do with your business model. And that was the end of the actual presentation bit. I've put down there the two books that I've mentioned, which is the business model book and the strategy book, and my contact details, and open to questions, I guess.
Well, thank you, Brenda. I'll give you a second to have a drink. It's been really good, and I've made a lot of notes. You've added to my to-do list for things I need to do now. So thank you for that. Now, it's interesting, I always kind of knew about the business model canvas as very much a where you are now type of tool. But I think that's really interesting as a kind of essentially where you want to get to, but also the element of analysing the competition. I could see the real benefits in that. And I guess for some people on here, it might not be a specific competitor, but so if you're I don't know, you're running a marketing type business, you might just talk about a big marketing agency, a medium-sized agency. It doesn't have to be a specific individual competitor, would you say?
No, you could look at it in terms of groupings. So what would a large agency do that's different to what you do? So you could look at freelancers, agencies, in-house marketing teams. You could look at it that way, I guess, rather than a specific competitor. Just to see what the differences are and where the different value is to the end customer. Yeah,
so Karen agrees with me, which is good to hear. Great for analysing competitors. I guess she mentioned there about it's hard to keep this objective. I guess you kind of touched on it there about, would you recommend that when you do these things, maybe sit with somebody else kind of independent of your business who may know a little bit about your business, but not involved day to day, just to kind of get their analysis of it?
Yeah, well, obviously I would, because that's what I do. That's my business model. Yes, I would either get somebody to sit with you and do it, because they can really challenge you and they can see when you're not in it. When you're in it, it's very hard, especially the value proposition bit and the why. It's really hard to think about it when it's your baby and it's your business, to almost stand back and see it as somebody else sees it. and see it from the customer point of view and what's the customer thinking and doing. So I would do it with somebody else. Do it if you've got a team, do it with your team, get everybody in the room together and post-it notes and put it up. Yeah, I think it's not a tool. I think you could probably sit and do your as is a little bit yourself, but I think to bring it alive, I would use somebody else to really challenge your thinking on it.
Absolutely. I know you mentioned the post-it notes. Fliss has even commented on Workplace about liking the post-it notes ideas. But obviously, with that is, I know, a very visual person.
Fliss saw it in action last week.
Absolutely, and that's a very visual person. I guess that's
I definitely think. Yeah, I'd keep it as visual as possible as well, and don't get too detailed with it. This is not about detailed business planning. This is high level. And the detail then comes in what you're going to do from moving from A to B. That's where your detailed planning comes in. In terms of the business model, I'd keep it quite high level and strategic.
Yeah, and it's a great starting point, because I think that's, if any of us, if someone said write down your business model, it's where to start is really, really tough, isn't it? And this is what is a tool to start, basically. It's to help you start.
Yeah. And while I've gone through it and I've numbered it.
No, so I see Stuart. Thank you, Stuart, for the comment. It says,
Stuart's comment?
Go on, brother.
No, I was saying.
Yeah, so Stuart had a great comment. It says,
you've gone quiet.
Sorry, Brenda. So Stuart said that a really great presentation. He's going to be in touch by the looks of it.
Right. Thank you, Stuart. Yeah, I was going to say, even though I've numbered the boxes and there's a logic to how I've numbered them, you'll find in reality you'll end up going all over the place. So if you're doing it for yourself, don't get hung up on following the numbers, just because you might think about your customer, and then that might make you think about the channel, and then that might make you think what you've got to do in the back office. So don't get hung up on the numbering, just let it flow as it naturally flows when you're trying to do it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brenda. So doesn't matter if there's any more questions, but I think the people will be in touch with you, I'm sure. So thank you very much.
No worries.
It's been really useful. Like I said, I've taken about 3 pages worth of notes, so you've helped me definitely today, Brenda. So thank you for that.
I can set, if anybody wants to Workplace or whatever, I can send through the blank templates, or I'll attach it on Workplace or whatever, so you can use the template.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Brenda, and thank you for everyone who's come on as well, and really appreciate the time.
No worries.
Thank you.
See you all later.
Bye.
Bye.